The subject of this piece is darkness. I just finished reading a book, and while I'm glad that I read it, looking back, I can't for the life of me understand why I did it. Certainly it wasn't the title. Even Darkness Sings, From Auschwitz to Hiroshima, Finding Hope in the Saddest Places on Earth. I thought that was a schmaltzy, cheesy, schlocky title. I think there are some events that are so appalling, so very devastating, that there is nothing positive that comes from them, no sense of inspiration or hope, and most definitely no song, just the utter finality of loss and grief. To act or believe otherwise is, I believe, delusional. It turned out that the author of the book agreed with me, I think. He did range the planet with his wife and sometimes his daughter in search of what he called dark places. And that should have been the title of the book, just that, Dark Places. His working title, I believe, was the somewhat more dramatic and evocative Tragic Shores. It must have been an editor or someone in marketing who came up with Even Darkness Sings. He and his wife didn't miss much, and if they did, he ends with an itinerary of places he would visit if he had the time. His wife was Jewish, and Auschwitz made her cry. About that dark place he wrote, "Here cruelty, hopelessness, and suffering congealed in a form, by a means, and to an extent, that resulted in the birth of something genuinely new. I learned that Hiroshima was destroyed by 1 1/4 pound of U-235. I've thought for a long time that Okinawa was one of the bloodiest battles ever, but this book, chronicling the very last moments of that disaster, told me that it had been much worse than I had thought. In addition, the slaughter at Okinawa was the terrible prelude to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He and his wife went to Verdun, a town he called an insatiable devourer of young men. He wrote, "It was hard to see how that victory monument could celebrate anything but the god of carnage." They traveled everywhere in search of monumental psychopaths like Bluebeard and Pol Pot, the leper colony on Hawaii, scenes of terrible massacres, the start of the Trail of Tears, Ireland, Australia, the Far East, Cambodia, Vietnam, slave ports, a salt mine in Poland, all of that and more. Places so dark they gave off no light or sound, were only, in their testimony to history, terrifyingly mute. As I said, I think the author and I were agree sometimes there is no cuddly warmth or song. There are limits, he wrote, to how much a dark place can relieve you and restore you. When the dark place is your own, when you have reached the dark shore within you and learned, at least for now, there is no light. There is only the necessity to go on. In the midst of this worldwide festival of darkness, his wife had back pains that would not go away, because it was breast cancer that had metastasized into nearly every major organ in her body, including her spinal cord, thus the back pain. It took her, I think, 16 agonizing months to die, and this was when he found the darkness within, when the darkness came and found him. She was not just his wife and the mother of his child, she was his hero and his beloved. And the illness cut her down, mentally and physically. It destroyed her before it killed her. After she died, he wrote a letter, "Dear friends," in remembrance of her. He put it in the book, and it belonged there, because by then any reader had become a friend, and would necessarily share the grief caused by her suffering and death. I would not go out of my way to seek dark places, as this author did, because I am certain that the darkness is out there, and also that it will find me. I know that cruelty is natural, and that nature and man can inflict all kinds of cruelty and pain on people whose only crime was that they were alive and present, available as targets. I think that mankind is not always kind, and death is rampant. The author dove into it, and, almost as a final personal lesson, a tutorial, cancer took his cherished wife. Having a daughter and grandchildren to whom he dedicated the book, he will necessarily go on. But there is some darkness that is only dark, and there's no song. The rest is silence.